One average Wednesday, I took a quick survey of my channels of communication. That day, there were 125 emails, 300 text messages, 5 business appointments, 5 phone calls, 1 personal appointment, and dinner with my family. All told, there were substantial conversations with 34 different individuals that day. And yet, as I sat down that evening, as on many nights, I felt lonely. I'm not the only one noticing that something is off. Former U.S. Surgeon General Vivek Murthy says we're in an epidemic of loneliness. And one study said 12% of Americans, that would be about 30 people in this room, have 0 close friends. Well, I made it my mission to figure that out for myself. That's what I've been taught to do as a PhD and as a leadership consultant. My day job is helping executives get inside those messy situations, figure out what's really going on, and get everybody aligned around a compelling vision. And I knew that when that worked well, it was because my clients had learned to ask better questions of each other and then really listen for the answers. Did you know that young kids can ask as many as 107 questions per hour? The average may be closer to 30, but that number begins to drop when we go to school. Now, maybe that's because we've figured out more of how the world works, but maybe it's also because we've internalized that having the answers is better than having the questions. Except that that's wrong. It's so wrong. We actually know from research that questions help us learn better. And in relationships, in the short term, questions make us more likable. And in the long term, they help us build lasting bonds. I knew at work that questions were a powerful tool that helped my clients have stronger relationships and better results. Could they have the same effect in my personal life? Well, after 4 years of exploring that question, I can tell you the answer is yes. Asking better questions has helped me renew the sense of connection I was missing. I feel less lonely, and I want you to feel that way too. But first, we have to learn to ask a better question. So today I want to share with you 2 steps you can take starting immediately to ask better questions in your life, questions that help you strengthen connection and have stronger relationships. The first step is to cut the predictable questions as much as possible. MIT's William Isaacs writes that the most important parts of any conversation are those neither party could have imagined at the start. And yet we so often try to start conversation with these predictable questions that have a scripted range of responses. Questions like, how are you? And how was work? And we completely expect the answers that we get. Earlier today, if you had asked me while I stood backstage, how are you? I would have given you my standard answer. Oh, fine, thanks. But if you broke the script, even just a tiny bit, and asked a less predictable question, maybe something like, what are you thinking about as you wait back here? I might have told you that I was nervous to talk about being lonely. Or I might have said I'm excited to share these ideas I hold dear. I might have also confessed I regret wearing heels. Whatever I would have said would have been so much better than fine. Let me share with you one of the examples from my own life of when I began to notice that the questions were really a part of the problem. About 5 years ago, I drove my oldest to get their hair cut. Sam read a book the whole way, barely glancing up when I asked about it. And then we get to the salon, and suddenly Sam can't stop talking about the book with the stylist. What had happened? But I bet you've already figured it out. Her questions were better than mine. I asked these predictable closed questions like, do you like the book? And is it the second in the series? And Sam answered in kind. And then the stylist asked these curious questions like, what kind of books do you like? What is it about fantasy books? What makes for a strong character? Do you see how small and mighty that is? When we ask these closed, predictable questions, we miss out on those moments of the unexpected that Isaacs wrote about. So the first thing we have to do is cut the predictable questions as much as possible. And our second step is to ask questions that seek understanding. Author and psychologist Lori Gottlieb tells the story of a woman who said to her husband, "Do you know what the 3 most romantic words are, even more romantic than I love you?" The husband, he gives it some thought, and maybe he tries an option or two like, "You were beautiful," or "You were right." In this case, that wasn't what she was thinking. She said, no, the 3 most romantic words are, "I understand you. I understand you. In fact, I don't feel understood by you." Maybe the complaint that lands couples in therapy most often. But it's not just couples who need a renewed sense of understanding in their relationships. Do you feel truly understood by your mom or by your boss? Do you truly understand your kids? We don't just have an epidemic of loneliness. We have a chronic lack of understanding. Now, to get to understanding, you have to ask questions that dig a little deeper, questions that ask for feelings rather than just facts. A good rule of thumb is if you're about to ask a question that can be answered by looking at someone's resume or calendar or with a minute of online searching, it will not be a question that builds connection. Imagine you meet a doctor at a dinner party. You could pepper that doctor with a series of fact-based questions. Where do you practice? What do you specialize in? Where did you study? Any siblings? Any pets? And at the end of that, you're going to have a list of facts about the doctor, but not much understanding. Author Charles Duhigg offers this example, and he says, instead of asking where she practices, ask her what inspired her to go into medicine in the first place. That question gets at her feelings, at her motives, at her priorities. And with one question, you'll have a fact. And with the other, you'll have understanding and maybe a potential new friend. When we do this, when we seek understanding with our closest friends and families, every conversation becomes an opportunity to build stronger connection. Imagine you're talking with your best friend as she cleans out her childhood home after her parents' death. You can ask about the logistics in the estate sale and you'll have the details, but you could also ask, what memories are coming up as you clean out the place? Even just watching television with your partner becomes an opportunity to strengthen connection if you ask questions like, which character is resonating most with you right now? And at work, when asking if someone agrees with a decision, that's a predictable question with a scripted range of responses. Instead, you could ask, give me your level of certainty on this. What's influencing your vote? In these alternatives, we're seeking understanding, looking for feelings rather than just facts, and we're building stronger connection in every conversation. Now, most of the time, it's not too hard to replace a closed question with a truly curious one. It's not too hard to ask a question that seeks understanding rather than just facts. But sometimes it really is difficult, like when political differences polarize our extended family, or when you and your partner don't see eye to eye on an important decision. In those moments, it's essential that we ask for understanding. And in fact, it may have never been more important than in this moment in history that we ask questions for understanding. Why? Because when people feel lonely and they also feel misunderstood, it leads to mistrust. And that is fuel for conspiracy theories. So asking questions for understanding is not just essential for our most important relationships, it's absolutely vital for a healthy society. We have to learn to ask questions like, what worries you about this situation? What experiences are shaping your perspective? What are the priorities for you in this choice? And when we ask those questions, we have to meet the moment by truly listening to the response. To borrow a phrase from the prayer of St. Francis, seek to understand before being understood. Knowing and being known by my closest friends and family is a powerful antidote to loneliness. Asking better questions has reminded me that I can still be surprised by the answers offered by my husband of almost 25 years. And while it's still almost impossible to get my teenagers to talk when I want them to, a good question does tip the odds in my favor. If you want stronger relationships, less loneliness, better connection, we have to be more intentional about the questions that we ask. Cut the predictable questions and seek understanding in every conversation that matters. Now, as for me and my email account, it's still a mess. But I think we can agree, reply alls are not going to be the place to find connection. Instead, I'm building stronger bonds, deepening understanding, and finding more meaningful relationships, one question at a time.